Over 60? Discover 4 heartwarming yogurts that incredibly renew muscles and relieve arthritis pain. Ruth's heart thudded in her chest like a drummer keeping time. The pain in her knees had become a constant reminder that she was no longer the sprightly grandmother she once was. Every creak of her joints echoed the weight of expectations from her children, her friends, and even herself. Maplewood buzzed around her with whispers of worry, as if the town itself mirrored her struggles. The shop her late husband built stood heavy on her shoulders, the hardware store now a fading memory among the shiny new franchises sprouting like weeds. But even as she felt that weight, a flicker of hope sparked one crisp morning after she stumbled. The fall left her bruised, not just on her skin but deep within her spirit. That day, the lure of the community wellness event called to her like a siren-esque song. Shaking off the crushing sense of defeat, she ventured into the humble community center, drawn in by the camaraderie woven through the air. Surrounded by familiar faces, neighbors who had seen her through countless holidays, laughter, and tears, Ruth was enveloped by warmth, a hug that melted the ice of her loneliness. It was here she discovered those 4 heartwarming yogurts, recipes passed down through generations like sacred heirlooms. Each flavor, blueberry bliss, honey vanilla, peachy dreams, and cinnamon delight, painted vivid memories of childhood kitchens filled with the sweetness of life. Ruth tasted each one, their creamy textures reminding her of her mother's gentle touch, the laughter shared around family tables. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Ruth incorporated these yogurts into her daily life, something shifted. The warmth spread from her belly to her limbs. She felt an energy bubbling back to life, igniting her spirit. But just as she began to forge a path through the haze of pain, her son David's doubts cast a shadow. He was living under weighty financial pressures, feeling the stake of societal expectations, and challenged her enthusiasm with a scoff. "Mom, come on. These old remedies aren't going to save you. You need to get with the times." Conflict tugged at her heart, a raw nerve exposed. The clash of tradition against modernity loomed as she braced for impact. Family dinners turned tense, words tightened like a noose. Yet, in the tumult of emotions, Ruth felt a flicker of determination. The yogurts weren't just about her healing. They were a connection to a world where her family could find solace, even amidst uncertainty. The idea of hosting a community event blossomed, a vision bursting to life like spring after a brutal winter. It would honor not only her healing but also pay tribute to the enduring spirits of Maplewood's veterans and elders, a celebration of sacrifice and resilience. As enthusiasm spread, familiar faces lit up with joy and partnership. The kitchen hummed with laughter. However, doubt still lingered. Could she truly bridge this chasm with David? The day approached bright and hopeful, yet tinged with anxiety. Ruth stood at a crossroads, her heart racing as she envisioned a united family, standing together as they honored their past, while embracing the potential of a brighter tomorrow. Would she be able to tenderly wrap the wound of division with the healing embrace of shared memories? The sweetness of her childhood recipes mingled with the uncertainty of the future. Transformation was on the horizon, but could it reshape more than just her pain? The stillness hung in the air, charged with promise and fear. The stage was set. One question loomed. Could love bridge the divide? And would they find healing not just from pain, but in each other? Ruth woke up early that morning, the sun casting a golden hue over Maplewood. Today was the day of the community event, and she could feel the buzz in the air, like a live wire waiting to spark. She slipped out of bed, her knees protesting slightly, but the excitement settled over her like a warm blanket. She glanced at the clock. It was time to set her plan into motion. In the kitchen, she organized bowls and spoons while chatting with Mabel, her neighbor and confidant, who was there to help. Just think of it, Ruth. This is about sharing joy, love, and yogurt. Mabel laughed, the sound infectious, lifting Ruth's spirits. Together, they prepared tables covered with checkered tablecloths, adorned with flowers straight from Ruth's garden. As they set up, Ruth's heart swelled with pride. She remembered the last time they had gathered like this, how laughter bubbled up until it filled the whole room. This was how she envisioned healing not just for herself, but for David too. However, as the event drew nearer, a nagging worry twisted in her stomach. Would he come? Would he see how meaningful this was for her? Moments like these had the power to heal fractured families. But what if he remained distant? The first early birds arrived, familiar faces lighting up as they greeted Ruth. "We brought fresh fruit. It goes perfectly with those yogurts," someone called out. She beamed, their generosity buoying her spirits. As the crowd grew, Ruth conducted the activities with joy, sharing stories of the yogurt flavors that resonated with her childhood. She watched the transformation unfold around her. Neighbors exchanged cheerful banter, laughter blended with the melodies of the past, and the warmth of community wrapped them all in a tender embrace. Yet, her eyes searched for one lonely face among the throng. Where was David? Just as doubts began to creep in, the door creaked open. There he stood, his expression softening at the sight of the vibrant gathering. Ruth's breath hitched in her throat. He looked worn yet hopeful, pausing at the entrance as if caught between staying and leaving. "David," Ruth called out, her voice carrying through the room like a lifeline. The momentum of celebratory energy swept him in. He hesitated only a moment before moving towards her, his steps tentative. "Mom," he said, glancing around at the colorful spread and happy faces. Despite the stress lines on his forehead, there was a spark of something familiar in his eyes. "I didn't know you were going all out like this." Ruth's heart swelled at his nervous smile. "It's about bringing us together, sweetheart. Come taste the yogurt," she urged, her heart racing as he took a seat. She scooped him some blueberry bliss and watched with bated breath as he took the first bite. The room fell silent. The familiar flavors danced on his palate, igniting a flicker of nostalgia. "Wow, Mom, this is actually really good," he finally admitted, a smile creeping onto his face. A wave of relief washed over Ruth. Was this the bridge she'd hoped for? As they conversed, sharing laughter and stories, she could nearly feel the chasm between them starting to close. It wasn't just about the yogurts or the gathering. It was about rediscovering each other, layer by layer, without the weight of expectations. But just as hope surged within her, a call from David's phone shattered the moment. He glanced at the screen, his face paling. "I have to take this. It's about work," he murmured, turning away. Ruth watched him retreat, her heart sinking. The weight of reality pressed down as he stepped back into the chaos of life, leaving the warmth of connection behind. She took a deep breath, knowing deep down this wasn't finished yet. With determination ignited anew, Ruth gathered the strength to keep fighting for her family, her community, and herself. The sweetness of shared memories and newfound moments hung in the air, but would they be enough to hold on to what they had just begun to create? As the event carried on, Ruth's anticipation mounted for what might follow this fragile moment. Could her son learn to embrace the sentiment woven through the past and into their shared future? The day wasn't over, not by a long shot. Ruth stood there, a bittersweet taste lingering in her mouth as she watched David turn his back on the warmth they had just ignited. The echoes of laughter around her felt distant, as if the joyful sounds were on another planet. She clenched her fists, fighting back the surge of emotions that threatened to spill over. This was not just about yogurt. It was about healing bonds long frayed by silence and avoidance. With all the strength she could muster, Ruth centered herself. She walked away from the snack table, determined to immerse herself in the festivities. She engaged with neighbors, her laughter ringing genuine despite the lingering ache in her heart. "Did you try the strawberry rhubarb? That one's a classic," she exclaimed to Mrs. Henderson, who nodded enthusiastically. Yet, each interaction was tinged with the shadow of David's departure, her eyes drifting back to the spot where he had vanished. Would he really prioritize work over this? Over them? Moments later, Ruth caught a whiff of the fresh fruit salad being prepared at another table, and a wave of nostalgia washed over her. There he was again, David's face alight with that same warmth she had seen earlier. He had returned, phone now tucked away, but replaced with a tight expression. Her heart raced, the warmth of hope sparking within her once more. "Hey, look who's back!" Mabel shouted, and suddenly all eyes were on him that he stood, fidgeting in place, caught in the spotlight. Ruth took a deep breath, stepping closer. "You're just in time for the yogurt tasting." David glanced uncertainly at the crowd. "It's okay, I can come back, no?" she insisted, her resolve firm like the sun breaking through clouds. "Stay? We've missed you." There was a moment of silence, a hesitation that felt heavy. Ruth could feel eyes glued to them, murmurs swirling like unspoken prayers. She reached out, taking his hand in hers and squeezing gently. Slowly, he relented. "Okay," he said, looking down at the colorful spread. "What is next?" Ruth beamed, her heart leaping. "Let us try the peanut butter banana. It's a new favorite." As they sampled flavors together, David began to relax. With each taste, Ruth could see the barriers easing, the flickers of his smile illuminating their shared history. They chatted about the fruits, memories intertwining in sweetness. "Remember when you taught me how to make peanut butter sandwiches?" he asked, eyes sparkling with the past. "Ah, yes. You were only 2 and got more peanut butter on your face than the bread." She laughed, and soon, they were both laughing, the distance between them shrinking. Just then, a commotion near the entrance drew everyone's attention. A couple of teenagers rushed in, laughter spilling over them like sunlight. They were wielding colorful balloons, and their energy was contagious. The crowd turned, smiles widening as the teenagers distributed balloons, coverage of excitement filling the air. But wait, Ruth thought, her heart catching again. David had missed this. He had missed connecting with the community, missing this moment of joy. Would he tuning back and be enough? "Let us join them," he urged suddenly, a sparkle of mischief lighting up his eyes. The uncharacteristic vibrancy shocked her, as if he had stepped out from behind a curtain of shadows. "Really? You?" Ruth responded, her heart dancing at the prospect. "Why not?" He laughed, the sound rich and familiar. Finally, with her son leading the way, they spent the next hour mingling with the crowd, balloons in hand, laughter echoing through the air like music. For every step forward, for every shared moment, Ruth felt the knots of doubt within her unraveling. But as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting everything in hues of orange and pink, a new call emerged, a decision that would either strengthen their bond or shatter it once more. Standing on the edge of the gathering, her heart pounded as she noticed David deep in conversation with a childhood friend, eyes alight with easy laughter. Suddenly, his expression faltered, and he glanced back at Ruth, uncertainty casting a shadow over his face. What was he thinking? Could she take the plunge and ask him a question that might change everything? As she contemplated her next move, a shiver of fear danced through her. Would he be ready to face the past that loomed so large? Could they find a way through this together? The moment hung in the air like a balloon, inflated with potential. Would Ruth finally bridge the gap that had separated them for too long? Ruth was rooted in place, torn between a wave of hope and a tide of uncertainty. She studied David's face, a canvas of emotions playing out before her. Would he laugh with their friend and forget about her? Or was he thinking about what lay ahead? She felt the heat of their shared past creeping back, memories racing through her mind like vibrant fireworks. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, feeling an electric charge in the air as she entered closer to their small group. David noticed her, his eyes widening for just a second before he turned back to his friend, who was still talking animatedly. The laughter around them felt like a sweet melody, but Ruth's heart thumped out an anxious rhythm. "Hey," she piped up, forcing a casual tone, even as her palms felt damp. "I just wanted to come say how great it is to see you again." David's friend smiled, motioning for her to join them. "We were just reminiscing. Did you know David was the fastest kid in the neighborhood? Always running from the lemonade stand to the swing set." "Oh, I remember that," Ruth added, the laughter swelling inside her chest. "He was unbeatable except when the bee chased him. That was quite the sight." The group burst into laughter, and even David's smile broke through that uncertainty. But just as quickly as it appeared, his expression turned serious again. "Ruth, can we talk?" he asked, taking a hesitant step away from the crowd, as if to break free from the shared memory, and Ruth felt a rush of adrenaline. "Sure, let us go," she replied, her heart racing toward unknown territory. They found a quieter corner under a maple tree, its leaves rustling softly in the evening breeze, framing them in a golden light. "What was it you wanted to tell me?" she asked, scanning his face for signs of reassurance. David hesitated, his eyes reflecting the shifting colors of the sunset. "I was just thinking about how things got so complicated between us. How I let work pull me away from everything that truly mattered." His voice softened, the sincerity in his words clear as the sky above. Ruth's heart twisted in her chest. "I understand more than you know. I thought you didn't want to be here, with me." "No, Ruth." That nodded. He insisted, stepping closer, desperation in his eyes. "I've been scared to confront everything. You, me, us, I know I messed up." Ruth felt the sheer weight of those words, each syllable heavy with history. The flickering warmth of hope that had reignited in her chest flickered again, threatened by the old fears swirling just beneath the surface. "So what do we do now?" she asked, fighting the urge to retreat into her shell. "I want to fix this," he said, his voice steady, yet vulnerable. "I want to be here for you. For us. I need you to know that I'm trying." The sincerity in his tone sent waves of relief crashing through her. "Trying could be the first step," she replied, guilt creeping in. "But I need more than words, David. We've been disconnected for a while. I can't get too far ahead until I know you truly mean it." David nodded slowly, a storm of emotions torrenting silently through him. Their eyes locked, the world around them fading into a hushed presence. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows on the ground, Ruth felt that moment stretching, holding promises and potential. Something shifted in his gaze. "I know this won't be easy, but I believe in what we can build, Ruth." As a butterfly fluttered by, landing on the table where they had been enjoying yogurt, she thought about how fleeting and beautiful life could be, like that delicate creature. Could they create something new together, despite the cracks in their past? Just as she was about to respond, a shout erupted from the crowd. The teenagers were now tying all the balloons to a newly arrived picnic table, planning a surprise for everyone. Each burst of laughter pulled so many smiles into one large tapestry of community joy. "Shall we?" David asked, tilting his head toward the vibrant scene bursting with laughter and warmth. "Let us go," Ruth replied, her heart lightening a bit more. But as they turned to join the others, the question lingered unspoken. Could they truly rebuild what had been broken? Just before they joined the crowd, David paused. "Ruth, I still have something else to share with you." The words hung like a ripe fruit, waiting to be plucked. Would it be a revelation, an insight, or something that could change everything? Ruth felt a swirl of anticipation. The way David stood there, hesitating, made her heart itch with both curiosity and anxiety. "What is it?" she urged softly, hoping he wouldn't let this moment slip away. He took a deep breath, his gaze flicking back to the lively group a few yards away. Laughter spilled into the air, a stark contrast to the heaviness that hung between them. "I've been thinking a lot about the time we spent apart. I've realized I've always cared for you, even when we weren't together." Her breath hitched in her throat. Their shared moments, the laughter, the painful silences, the long talks under the stars played through her mind in vivid detail. "Sometimes it didn't feel that way. It felt like you chose everything else over me," she replied, searching his eyes for honesty. "I know. I messed it up. But I want to make it right. I want to try to be better, to show you that you're important to me still," he confessed, his voice thick with emotion. Ruth watched him closely, studying the resolve that seemed to gather like a storm brewing in the distance. "Making things right isn't easy, David. It won't happen overnight," she warned, feeling the weight of reality settle around them. "I'm willing to put in the work," he said, his voice steady. "Just give me a chance. Let us not rush into this, but let us explore what's still here. Together, piece by piece." "I'm scared," she admitted, her feelings spiraling like autumn leaves caught in the wind. "What if we try and it all falls apart again?" His brow furrowed, and Ruth could see how hard he was fighting to reach her. "Then we face it together. No running away this time. I promise." The warmth of his words filled the space between them. It felt like a soft blanket on a cold night, but she couldn't ignore the past. Sometimes it's easier to forget than face the hurt. I don't want more pain." David stepped closer, and Ruth could feel the heat radiating off him. "I know the hurt well, but it's the possibility of healing that I want to focus on." Can we keep our minds open to that? Ruth's heart quivered, torn between her instinct to shield herself and the yearning to connect. What if we just take it slowly? One foot in front of the other? Slowly sounds perfect, he offered with a flicker of hope dancing in his eyes. Just then, the sound of laughter erupted from their friends, followed by cheers as the balloons took flight. It was an explosion of color against the azure sky, each one carrying a promise, a wish, a dream. Ruth's heart leaped as she watched, the beauty stirring something within her. See, David broke into her thoughts, a smile forming on his face. Even the balloons encouraging us to lift off. It has to mean something. Ruth couldn't help but smile, despite the chaos of emotion underneath. There was something magical about new beginnings, even in a world filled with uncertainties. Maybe it does, she whispered, glancing up at him. Just as their thoughts wrapped around hope, David's phone buzzed violently in his pocket. He fished it out, and his expression shifted. I have to take this, he said reluctantly, stepping back a bit. It's work, but I'll be quick. Okay, she breathed, her preceding joy mingling with anxiety. As he walked slightly away, the vibrant chatter of their friends faded to a low hum in her ears. While waiting, her own thoughts churned. This opening felt like a turn, but was she ready to follow him back into the fray? And what was this thing he needed to share that weighed upon his heart? The buzzing crowd pulled her thoughts in conflicting directions, every laugh and shout a reminder of the journey ahead. As he finished the call and returned with a frown, an even deeper question hovered just above her shoulder. What did David truly need to tell her in light of all this? Ruth watched as David stepped away, his frame momentarily lost in the colorful chaos around them. The laughter that once brought her joy felt distant now, distant like the warmth on a chilly day. Her heart skipped, torn between wanting him close and the shadows of uncertainty that danced in her mind. David's expression was serious when he returned, his shoulders a little slumped like the weight of the world bore down on him. I got some news, he began, looking down as if grounding himself. The project I was working on, it fell through. Oh, David, I'm sorry, she said instinctively, her heart sinking. What does this mean for you? He swallowed hard, a hint of vulnerability flickering in his eyes. I've been given another chance, but it's going to involve some big moves. They're relocating the team. Different city, different life. Her breath caught, the air feeling suddenly thick. The thought of him leaving, again, felt like a punch in the gut. Are you serious? I don't want you to think I'm running away or avoiding. He shook his head passionately, searching her eyes, desperate for understanding. But this opportunity could change everything. But what about us? She asked, her voice trembling. We just started to figure things out. David took a careful step closer, frustration and longing etched across his features. That's exactly it, Ruth. I want to include you in that future. I thought I could finally build something real between us again. But I can't ask you to jump into uncertainty with me. I want to do that. His tone ignited a storm of emotions in her. Her eyes softened even as her heart raced. It was as if they were two ships passing in the night, yearning for connection but anchored to their own fears. And what if she started before her voice caught, realizing how deeply she felt the weight of all they had experienced? What if I want to try? What if I want to be there with you? The tension between them felt electric, a charged moment brimming with possibility. David's face transformed, flickering between surprise and hope. You really would consider it? Maybe. The admission was a soft blend of honesty and desperation, yet she couldn't ignore the reality of it all. But I can't just leave everything behind without really knowing what I'm stepping into. You don't know if this is going to be a long-term thing or just another something that shifts and spills away. I know, he sighed, the burden of the decision washing over him. But there's a chance if we make it together. I'll be facing this all alone unless. He trailed off, biting back the words that hung impatiently in the air. The swirl of laughter erupted again from their friends, a bright sharp note in the heavy moment they were sharing. It felt out of place, yet it tugged at something inside Ruth. She wanted joy, and she wanted hope. David, I just need time to think, time to consider everything. Her heart ached with the thought of losing him, but also with the need to protect herself. I get that. He nodded slowly, resolve returning to his eyes. Let us not rush into anything. Just promise me one thing. No matter what, let us keep talking. About everything. Deal? She whispered, the relief mingled with sadness that she felt in her chest. As they began to walk back towards the crowd, she couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was just beginning. There was so much left unsaid, and the horizon seemed to stretch further than she ever thought it could. But what lay ahead for them both? Would it all just lead to more heartache? Or could this truly be the fresh start they needed? As they approached their friends, laughter wrapped around them like a warm embrace, and Ruth felt that deep question echo louder than all the joy combined. The laughter of their friends swirled around Ruth like a gentle breeze, yet she felt tethered to the weight of uncertainty. Colors seemed brighter, the music more vibrant, yet she was only half present. Her heart, still echoing with the recent conversation, wrestled with the prospect of change. "Hey, are you coming?" Sarah, one of their friends, leaned in, her voice a harmonious mix of concern and cheer. "We're about to play a game. You have to join." Ruth forced a smile, ready to slip back into the easy camaraderie of the group, yet her mind was cluttered with thoughts of David. Did he really want her to move with him? The possibility both thrilled and terrified her. "Yeah, just a sec," she called back, glancing at David. He had stepped away from the circle, staring thoughtfully toward the horizon where the sun was beginning to dip, casting an orange glow over everything. She took a deep breath and walked over to him, the urge to connect pulling at her. "You okay?" David turned, his brow slightly furrowed, as if he'd been lost in his own mind. "Just thinking," he replied, a soft smile breaking through. "About everything. About us. Life is really throwing curveballs at us, isn't it?" she said, trying to lighten the mood, though her heart belied her words. He nodded slowly, his eyes reflecting the flickering light. "But maybe that's a good thing, right? A chance to reinvent ourselves, to take risks, or to mess everything up again," she countered, the uncertainty creeping back. "True." The corners of his mouth turned down slightly, but he brightened quickly. "But what if we don't? Honestly, Ruth, I'm scared too. But I can't ignore how I feel about you." She swallowed hard, feeling the swell of emotions bubble up: fear, hope, and longing all converging at once. "I just need to think and weigh my options." "Of course," he said, a glimmer of understanding in his eyes. "But I want you to know, you won't be alone in this. We'll figure it out together." Ruth offered a faint smile in response, warmth spreading through her at his words. The light between them flickered, softening the uncertainty that hung in the air. Even if their future was cloudy, this moment felt undeniably bright. As the crowd edged closer, they were swept into a game that had begun. Laughter filled the space as friends teased and played. Ruth joined in, allowing herself to get caught up in the fun, even as her heart remained divided. "Ruth, your turn," a voice called, pulling her from her thoughts. She stepped forward, courage swelling within her. The challenge felt light, a welcome distraction from the heavy choices looming ahead. She tossed the ball toward her friend. David's eyes were glued to her. For a moment, all the worries melted away, and joy anchored her feet to the ground. But just as the laughter peaked, a serious voice in the back whispered fears of change. But what if she jumped? What if, for once, she embraced the unknown? The game continued, laughter echoing in the air, yet Ruth's mind wandered. The thought of David, the challenge of a possible life together, felt both thrilling and daunting. As the game ended and the dusk settled in, the conversations began to shift towards plans for the future: trips, vacations, and dreams shared among friends. Ruth felt a knot forming in her stomach. All those hopes tangled with her own doubts. Would her life always be about holding back, playing it safe? As David reached out to her, brushing his fingers against hers, she felt its warmth, and sparks ignited inside her. "Want to talk? Just us?" His voice was steady, inviting. The questions hung in the air like a thick mist. Her heart raced. Was she ready for where the conversation might lead? "Let us go somewhere private," she murmured, the weight of the world balancing delicately on her shoulders. With every step towards a quieter spot, her heart thumped louder, the unknown beckoning her closer. As Ruth and David navigated through the thinning crowd, the hum of laughter faded into the background, swallowed by the whispering breeze of twilight. The soft glow of string lights overhead illuminated their path, casting flickering shadows that danced on the ground like reflections of their swirling emotions. Ruth stole a glance at David. He looked resolute, but she could see the traces of anxiety hidden beneath his calm exterior. Their earlier conversation played over and over in her mind, a relentless loop of fear and excitement. "Are we doing the right thing?" she finally ventured, her voice barely above a whisper. It felt both necessary and terrifying to voice the question that had taken root in her thoughts. David paused, his brow furrowing as he considered her words. "I think it's about what we want, right? Not what everyone else expects." She felt the tension in her shoulders ease slightly. "But what if I can't do it? What if it changes everything?" He stepped closer, the warmth radiating off him, grounding her. "Change is scary, sure, but it can also lead to really great things. Don't forget how we started this journey together." His eyes sparkled with hope, igniting a spark in her chest. As they reached a small clearing away from the buzz of their friends, Ruth felt the weight of the world settle on her shoulders again. "But what if I mess it up, David? What if we aren't strong enough?" David let out a soft sigh, his gaze unwavering. "We've faced tough times before. We didn't back down, did we?" "True," she admitted, recalling the late-night talks, the struggles they had conquered together. Each moment had woven them closer, a tapestry of shared experiences that felt both comforting and constricting. He took her hands in his, a gesture that sent sparks through her. "Ruth, it's okay to be scared. It's actually part of moving forward. But you know what? I believe in us. We can handle whatever comes next." The warmth of his hands wrapped around hers filled her with a sense of safety she hadn't realized she craved. But as she looked into his eyes, doubt crept in again. What if we're not meant to be in the same place? What if we hold each other back? David's expression shifted, determination grounding his features. "Then we learn. We adapt. Isn't that what life is about? We can forge our own path." Her heart fluttered at his words, the promise of adventure mingling with her fear. "What if that path isn't what we expected? Then we can find joy in the unexpected," he replied, a smile breaking through. "Life isn't a straight line. It's all about the twists and turns." Ruth took a deep breath, feeling the edges of her fears soften. "I want that. I really do." As he pulled her closer, their foreheads gently touching, she felt a wave of understanding wash over her. They were in this together, regardless of where this led them. Just then, the distant sound of music began to play again, vibrant and full of life. It called to them like a siren's song, coaxing them back into the warmth of their friends. "Shall we?" David asked, a playful grin on his face. Ruth nodded, her heart racing with a mix of exhilaration and fear. As they turned to head back, she felt a new resolve building within her. Maybe embracing the unknown was the right path after all. But as they rejoined their friends, a sudden thought nagged at the back of her mind. What if the decision she made next was the most important of all? What if I don't know what I truly want? The question lingered, heavy and uncertain, as the night unfolded before them. The music enveloped them like a familiar embrace as Ruth and David stepped back into the lively crowd. However, the joy surrounding them felt distant, a mere backdrop to the storm swirling inside Ruth. Each beat of the drum echoed her rising uncertainty. The laughter and animated chatter of their friends felt like splashes of color on a canvas where she was struggling to find her brush. Ruth tightened her grip on David's hand, desperately seeking the steadiness he always offered. As they moved through clusters of people dancing and singing, her heart raced not just from the music, but from the sheer weight of choices yet to be made. She glanced at David, whose carefree laughter rang like music when he interacted with their friends. For a moment, he seemed an entirely different person, someone untethered by the doubts that weighed her down. "Are you okay?" he asked, noticing her contemplative expression. "Yeah, just a bit overwhelmed," she replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'm excited about everything, but what if I can't keep up? What if I disappoint you?" David's expression softened. There it was again, that grounding warmth in his gaze. "Ruth, you could never disappoint me. We're not just partners, we're teammates. We support each other through thick and thin." She wanted to believe him, to drown her apprehension in his faith. But every cheerful face around them intensified her inner turmoil. The conversations flashed like snippets of an unfamiliar language, and a sense of isolation washed over her. "Can we step outside for a minute?" she suggested, her voice trembling slightly. "Of course." He led her away from the vibrant crowd, just past the long wooden tables lined with cheerful groups. The air felt different out here, like stepping into a peaceful oasis away from the chaos. The soft glow of the string lights above the patio highlighted the anxiety in Ruth's eyes. "Hey," David said softly, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "What is really going on? I don't want to go into this blind, you know? I've never made decisions like this before, and what if what?" He prompted gently, leaning in closer. "What if I lose myself? What if I lose you?" The vulnerability dripped from her words, like a whispered confession in the night. "What if I'm not enough, David?" His brows knitted together as he contemplated her words. "Ruth, listen. Growing is scary, no doubt. But you're already more than enough. You have your dreams and your passions. Whatever happens, I'll be right beside you." Tears prickled at the corners of her eyes, a mix of gratitude and fear. She took a deep breath, still so uncertain about the tides of change ahead. "I just don't know if I'm ready." "Then let us take it one step at a time together," he said, his voice steady. "When I looked back at my journey, the moments that mattered weren't the leaps of faith, but the tiny steps I took, hand in hand with those I cared about." Ruth pondered his words, letting his unwavering support wash over her like a balm. In this moment, away from expectations, she felt the urge to truly explore what she wanted, even if it scared her. "Okay," she replied, a soft smile flickering to life. "I think I want to try." Just then, the distant laughter pulsed again, reigniting the night with energy. The music beckoned, reminding them of the hope that lay ahead. Ruth felt a spark of determination ignite within her. Perhaps this journey was less about knowing every path and more about savoring every step. "Let us go back," she said, her tone brightening. As they walked back to rejoin their friends, a new question surfaced in her mind. What if exploring her own desires set off a chain of events that would forever change them both? The possibilities loomed ahead, tinged with excitement and dread. As the night unfolded its vibrant tapestry of laughter and music, Ruth felt the weight she had carried slowly lift. The flickering string lights above danced like little stars, their glow creating a magic that seeped into her bones. With David at her side, she realized she wasn't just stepping back into a crowd. She was stepping into a future built on hope. "Look at them," David said, gesturing to their friends weaving through the tables, balloons bobbing like joyous announcements of possibility. Ruth followed his gaze, her heart swelling with affection for the community that had wrapped around her like a warm blanket. "This feels different," Ruth whispered, her voice woven with wonder as she watched their laughter spill into the warm night air. She turned to David, feeling the softness in his presence, one arm casually draped over her shoulders. "It feels like a new beginning." He smiled down at her, the warmth of his eyes igniting something deep within her. "That's because it is," he said confidently. "We're butting heads with our pasts, making room for something better." As they joined in on the conversations and games that erupted around them, Ruth felt the tremors of old fears begin to settle. Each laugh freed a little more woven pain from her heart. David's quiet strength intertwined with her spirit. Each playful nudge reminded her they could build something cherished and real. Piece by piece, in the midst of the festivities, Ruth caught sight of an elderly man from the community, Mr. Thompson, guiding a group of kids in a dance. The pure joy radiating from his smile propelled her heart into overdrive. Memories from her childhood flooded in, her father folding her into his embrace while they spun carefree under the night sky. "Let us dance," she blurted out, her spirit ignited by an untamed joy. "Are you sure?" David chuckled, his eyes sparkling with disbelief. "Absolutely." She grabbed his hand, pulling him toward the savory beat that filled the air. Laughter bubbled to the surface, mingling with the sounds of their delighted friends urging them on. Before she knew it, Ruth was twirling and laughing, every spin shedding remnants of uncertainty. "See," David laughed, swinging her around and causing her to squeal with delight. "This isn't so scary." With every spin, she could feel the chains of doubt loosening, replaced by the intoxicating taste of freedom. Their shared laughter weaved through the gathering, a promise echoing through her heart that change could blossom positively. Suddenly, David pulled her closer, a grin lighting up his face as a rush of unexpected energy filled the air. "You inspire me, Ruth. I'm really thankful for all this." Her heart swelled at his words, every syllable a gift wrapped in sincerity. "You inspire me too." I think this is the first step on a path we both need to walk together, just as we are. The night continued to unfurl beneath a stretch of twinkling stars, and Ruth and David moved through dances, games, and joyous exchanges with friends. Each interaction felt like a piece of the mosaic they were crafting together, one that held the weight of history, but was now bursting with new possibilities. Towards the end of the night, when the laughter began to soften into sleepy giggles, David paused. They stood at the edge of the gathering, the warm glow of the festivities behind them. "Ruth," he began, a serious glint in his eyes, "whatever happens next, you've taught me that trying matters. Let us keep choosing each other." Ruth clutched his hands, a rush of softness flowing through her. The world around them faded, and she could see only him. The young man she once feared was slipping away, now standing firm in the promise of tomorrow. "Always, one step at a time," she said, confidence blooming anew. And as they turned to rejoin their friends to bask in the fading summer night, she realized that they had strung together the first few threads of a new adventure, guiding them into a future they could shape together. The uncertainty was still there, but maybe together, they could create something beautiful through the messiness of life. As the moon rose high and shadows lengthened, Ruth felt transformed, not just through flavors or memories, but through connection, a community, and a love rekindled. This was their beginning, and she was ready to embrace every single moment. And right then and there, surrounded by love and laughter, Ruth made a vow. They would keep stepping forward, hand in hand, heart open and spirits soaring. Now, dear friends, if you enjoyed witnessing how love and community can heal, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now. Your support feeds the algorithm, and every click matters. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about today's heartwarming conclusion. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second. Help us spread the message of love and healing that connects us all.